So, contentment, being alone without it turning into isolation, is a tough one, especially since many people who are neurodivergent consider isolation to be peaceful. Because when we're on our own, we're not worrying about anyone else. We're not hyper attuned. We're not being misunderstood. We're not having to pay attention to extra cues. We're not having to employ the hypervigilance around us in our environments. So aloneness can slip toward isolation really quickly and become really comfortable for neurodivergent people. And it's a tricky balance. So what's coming up for me in this topic request is intention versus default. When we think about the difference between behaviors in pathology and behaviors in recovery, intention is one of the biggest distinguishing factors. Because really often behavior from the outside looking in can be exactly the same. Someone that is watching it from across the room might not be able to tell a difference when the difference is coming from intentionality versus default. So something like alone time, if I am intentionally creating space for myself to diffuse the day, balance my nervous system, support my own regulation, prioritize my needs, and being intentional about that and knowing that that's what my time is for, versus isolation, which has a more avoidance-based tone or connotation, where I'm not necessarily spending the time on my own in order to support me. I'm doing it to avoid whatever I don't want to be exposed to from others, if that makes sense. So keeping solitude intentional rather than defaulting to it, because alone time, being alone, works the best when it's something that I am intentionally stepping toward versus just the default space, the default avoidance. If it's mostly, my alone time is mostly based in my choice, I'm probably standing in that behavior from a recovery space. If my alone time is based mostly off of default or attempt to stay away from discomfort, then I'm probably approaching it from a pathology space. Another thing that comes up is connection doesn't have to always come from my personal space, my personal environment. I can be alone and on my own as a whole in my day-to-day and still maintain connection, maintain points of contact that have meaning. I don't want to use the phrase low effort, but something that doesn't require a lot of energetic drain for me. Relationships that are purposeful, relationships that are reciprocal, that I know that this person understands my boundaries, my lines, my needs, and is supportive of those, my recovery, and vice versa. So that points of contact can be connective, can be checking in truly around care, concern, and engagement, versus something like surface level small talk, which for a lot of neurodivergent people is really draining because it doesn't come naturally and it's not something that we can just spit out without having to keep the hypervigilant. What is going on around me? Who is listening? What are the people over there doing? What is the person that I'm talking to's face indicating to me that they're feeling about what I'm saying? Did I say it wrong? Did I say it? Are they agreeing with me? Are they opposed to me? That just small talk has a lot of under the surface chatter. for a neurodivergent brain. So relationships that are meaningful, where engagement can be really connective versus something that's requiring a whole lot of effort for very little output. And even allowing some of those folks to exist in the internal world, but curating what those connections look like. Curating meaning and prioritizing quality over quantity. A third thing that comes up for me is watching my own energy around alone time. Because as those of us who attend CFR have heard Amber say many times, my brain lies, but my body always tells the truth. Our body reactions are going to give us honest data about whether or not something that we're doing is benefiting us or not. If alone time is consistently leaving us feeling sad or disconnected or lonely, then it's probably not true alone time, it's isolation. If I am finding contentment in my solitude and able to keep up my recovery behaviors and the things that are priority for me in my alone time, and I'm come away from it feeling calm, clear, and like me afterward, then it probably is intentional solitude. So paying attention to what's happening in my body as a cue for whether or not I'm slipping towards something that is avoidance-based and isolation-based, or staying present in my intentional solitude as a tool for myself to recharge and reconnect with me so that I can focus the connection time and the capacity that I have for others on relationships that are supportive of where I am and of my recovery, and not spread across other places where relationship does not feel as much like it's serving a purpose for my recovery. So in discussion, we were talking a bit about the different ways that isolation and aloneness show up now today, and the gap between knowing what I need to do and doing what I know. And that gap is real. So for our tool today, we're going to work with a reframe around, if I want to close the gap between what I know versus what I'm doing, what if I don't need to gather more stuff to get across the gap or get more motivated to make a move? What if I need to make it easier to move? Rather than finding more tools, more potential things, more maybes, more strategies, or more ways to access motivation to do the thing that I am wanting to do and not stepping toward, what if instead I just make the step easier to take? So that might look like making it in shorter sections. If I have to go from, especially for me at the end of the day when my capacity is diminished and my brain is not processing things at the rate it was earlier in the day and just doesn't have the energy for it, maybe the idea of jumping from I'm sitting at home on Monday night and I would like to go to a meeting instead or have a connection instead, but I don't know where to go and I don't know what to do and I don't know what the time is and I don't know. So maybe for today, I shrink it and my step is not get to the group. My step is just learn what groups meet on Mondays. And I'll take another step tomorrow or next week. But today, I'm just going to worry about what groups meet on Mondays, or if it's connection that I'm looking for. And I know I should reach out to the people that are important to me. But doing all of that is a lot to think about. Maybe today, I don't call 4 people that I need to follow up with because they left me voicemails last week and I haven't. I just text 1 and let that be meaningful and connective for today. So shrinking the space into smaller, more manageable steps to make it easier to bridge the gap rather than having more stuff to help propel me across the bridge. Another thought with that is connecting what I need to do to something that I know I'm already going to do. If I know that I get a lot of personal reflective benefit from reading the ACOA daily meditations and I just forget to do it or pass by it in my inbox or don't, then connecting it to something that I know I am going to do. I know I'm going to wash my face at night. So I wash my face. And then before I leave the bathroom space, I pick up my phone and I read the meditation and I can reflect on it from there. I attach it to something that I already know that I'm going to do that's not an option for me and a part of my routine so that it feels less tasky and more like a part of. And then grow on it from there until the thing that I want to ultimately be a part of the routine becomes a part of the routine. And I think probably the biggest one is the emotional barrier, right? The barrier on the bridge of discomfort or vulnerability or fear about what if I do it and the outcome is not what I wanted it to be anyway? What if I do all this work and get to this place and then I don't feel connected to it at all? So thinking about that one in the and, that I can have the unknowns and be uncomfortable in the unknowns and still take steps. I can take steps while uncomfortable. They're not mutually exclusive. And making those smaller too. So thinking about ways to move from knowing to doing and more manageable, easier to take, easier to process chunks than trying to get from, I know I should be doing this, all the way to I did the thing all at one time.